Hello and welcome to the Faith Knows podcast, where we talk about creation, beliefs and living life with God. Thank you for joining us today. I am your host, Heidi Clark, and today I have two guests. Would you like to introduce yourselves?
Hi, my name is Lucy and I am 17 years old from Sheffield, and I think I would consider myself an atheist.
Hi, my name's Safa, I'm 18 and I'm from Sheffield and I'm a Muslim.
In this episode, we're going to talk about exploring different faiths and why it is so important to know what you believe. Firstly, Lucy and Safa, would you like to tell me a little bit about what you believe about creation and what kind of led you to believe that?
What led me to believe it at first was, obviously, I grew up and my whole family has always been Muslim. I come from a Muslim, well, not me, but my family come from a Muslim country. And it's just all I've known. But, as of recent, there's a point where they, discover the religion for themselves rather than what their family have taught them. And I think that's me, I'm in the phase right now, finding it myself.
I think for me personally, I didn't grow up in, I guess you'd say, a religious kind of environment, one that sort of was involved with, Christianity or anything like that. So my general opinions on creation, I suppose, are sort of just science-based. I don't think too much about it because it's quite a large concept and, there's a lot of theories behind it and everything. But yeah, I think for me personally, because it's such a large concept, I just sort of look at the science-based evidence surrounding creation. Obviously, I'm extremely open to hearing everyone else's opinions on what they think about creation and, the start of life and things like that. But yeah, I think just because I'm an atheist, a lot of it is science-based, even though there's no evidence, really, is there? It's just all theories and stuff like that. Yeah. But what would you say, Heidi?
So I am a Christian who follows Jesus and believes in the Bible. I don't try and focus on the kind of what people would say, the more religious, regimented, I go to a cathedral-looking church. I don't try and focus on that. I'm more try and focus on having that, personal relationship with God and to live kind of according to the Bible and its teachings. And kind of what led me to believe that, I guess I did grow up in a Christian household, and I was kind of a part of going to church a lot and involved in church and the family at church. But I kind of drifted, and it's just recently that I've kind of rebuilt and kind of wanted to understand all faiths rather than understanding just Christianity and saying, oh, I believe it because my family believe it, or I believe it because I went to a Christian school. I'd rather kind of find out for myself, do I actually believe this though? Do I truly think that the Bible is truth? And I think I really do. I mean, I want to do more research into it, and part of having conversations like these are finding out more about that. But so that's kind of, I guess, what led me to believe it, wanting to know more, because it is such a big, and when people say, oh, I'm not curious about it all, or, I don't want to know anything about that, I think it's a bit, far-fetched, because it's such a big, I don't know what the actual percentage is, but I think it's something 70% of the world has some sort of, religion or belief, or doesn't know what they believe. And so it's why wouldn't you want to kind of at least know about it? Even if you don't believe it yourself, you want to know about it because it just makes you a bit smarter, Yeah. I wouldn't call myself, religious. I just say I have a relationship with God, because I don't like the term religious. It makes me sound like I'm being, tied down, I feel. Mm-hmm. But yeah, would you guys say you're kind of confident in those beliefs and you feel like they're kind of set?
Yeah.
Yeah?
I'd say so. But, I've always been open to believing in something else.
Okay.
But for me, Islam has always just been my comfort.
Okay, yeah.
I think I'm definitely, I don't know if I'd say that I'm tied down to being an atheist, just because, especially when I was younger, I was very curious in Christianity particularly. But like I've mentioned previously, because I didn't grow up in an environment, sort of like my household and my schools, when religious, you'd say, I just it was sort of an area of my life that I pushed aside. But with things as well, like spirituality, I've been interested in. Like, I'm very interested in all these different areas. So really, I can't say if I'm tied down to just sort of being atheist, agnostic, something like that. I feel like there maybe is something there, out there, something bigger. But it's sort of an area of my life that I've not put too much thought into.
Yeah.
But I'm very curious, and I'd say that'd mean that I'm not too confident, which I think is okay.
Yeah,
absolutely. Especially as like young women, you don't know how your life can pan out, how your opinions can change, what people you meet, what situations you're in, and how your life can change and how your beliefs can change.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think if anyone is curious about what they believe in, that's perfectly fine at any age. And I think if you are happy in what you believe in and you're settled down in, your beliefs and your faith, that is perfectly fine as well, as long as you're happy and confident in that.
Amazing, yeah. I would say that I would say I'm pretty confident. I am definitely building up that confidence again as of recently. But as a kid, it definitely was super strong because it was literally all I'd known. I thought everybody was Christian. I was like, yeah, everybody believes in God. What are you on about? But because I did literally go to a Christian primary school, I only really met adults that were Christians, realistically, because they were just the people that my parents hung around with. My confidence was definitely stronger as a child, but I'm kind of trying to rebuild that because it is important, like you said. And do you guys think you have kind of a sufficient understanding of other religions, and do you think it's kind of important for young women and people like us to explore all the different types of beliefs and faiths and things like that?
I think I've got like a basic knowledge of all like Abrahamic religions, but when it comes to things like Buddhism and Sikhism, I do really want to know more because I feel like there's a lot of history behind that, and
Definitely.
they've got like loads of believers in that, and I think if there's like such a part of the world that believes in a certain thing, that I should take the time to educate myself on it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think with myself, I probably have like the most basic understanding of like Christianity and even more basic understanding of like Islam, but it's definitely something that I'm really curious about and would love to learn about. My school, you see, never taught RE, so it's like
Really?
yeah. So I never had that, like, which I don't know. I really would have liked to take that, and like, obviously, I know with you, Heidi, you did like RE at your school and did the GCSE exam on that. But yeah, we never. That was introduced when I was leaving, so I never had. I never had that taught to me in school. Only in like the younger years of primary school, which I can't remember now. But I definitely think young women should explore what they believe in, just to have that security for themselves in knowing what they believe in. And yeah, to be educated on that if you're figuring it out is so important.
Yeah. I definitely think, obviously, like we've all said, having that understanding is so incredibly important because when you're in any setting, knowing what you believe is such a crucial thing. Like, if you are wanting to look into other things, like, I think that's such a, like, honourable thing because...
Absolutely.
You at least, like, you're curious about it. There's so many people that just don't have, like, a clue at all, which is, again, absolutely fine. But if you're curious about it, that's a start. Like, people don't realise how hard it is to have that, like, start to faith. I would say about probably 6 months ago, when I started to realise that I needed to kind of come back to my faith and come back to Christianity, I looked into all the different religions on a very basic level. Like, I watched a lot of YouTube videos, like the ones that are like 5 minutes explaining every religion, you know? And it's like, realistically, that doesn't give you a full understanding of it. But I wanted at least that basic knowledge of the different religions, just so I could say, no, I have looked into other options, and I am choosing at this stage to believe in Christianity. And I mean, it's incredible that you didn't do RE. I didn't know that.
I know. I think the closest that I did was when we did history and we did like conflict in the Middle East.
Yeah.
We did like a very basic outline into learning about Christianity, being Jewish, and then Islam to obviously get the context as to why like Jerusalem is an important place for all those religions and why the conflict started. But yeah, we never had RE or anything.
Yeah.
That's weird.
Oh my gosh,
I thought it was I thought you had to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
it's. I feel because my school as well was extremely diverse. Like, you know, we had like the prayer rooms and people were very open about their religion, and we had assemblies about it and things like that. And in tutor, they'd sort of go over things that topic, and so it did seem a bit weird that we didn't get taught RE, considering like how many different people had different beliefs and religions in that school. I don't know, it was weird.
But because I think my RE lessons, I mean, I did them all throughout. I didn't get a very good grade, actually. We're not going to talk about that. But my RE lessons were primarily based on Islam and just like what they believe, the different practices, the different types of Muslims. And I found that very interesting for me. And I guess like it was... I guess Christianity was taught, but I don't think as much as Islam because there's not as much of an understanding, I think, in this country of Islam. And I think it's so important that, like, understanding that I do have. And I'd like to build on that just so I know the different beliefs, But yeah.
Like through my school, it was mainly taught Christianity and Islam, like more of there was like a bit of Judaism.
Yeah.
I remember in primary school, we had a school trip. All of us went to a church and sat through it. All of us went to a mosque and sat through it.
Oh, that's really good.
And then in secondary school, you had to take the lessons up until year 9, and then you pick a few GCs. Okay. I didn't pick it, but that's why I didn't like the teacher. Nothing personal, but they did in secondary school teach you not just Islam and Christianity, but stuff like Hinduism, Buddhism, like everything.
Yeah.
But I didn't pay attention, so I kind of regret that. Kind of regret it.
Yeah, that's really good though. Yeah, because again, to have that understanding of every belief is like incredibly important. But yeah.
Yeah, I think it's so important on like younger minds, impressionable minds, to just give them the outline of, this is what you might think, and other people think it too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I thought it was crazy that my teacher was atheist. Teaching RE, I was like,
oh
this doesn't make any sense. Until I realised that's actually probably the best option.
Yeah, because
that's
obviously
true.
they're not got like a bias, I suppose. But yeah, no, it's definitely. I feel like a lot of RE teachers aren't like don't have a faith of their own.
I have a question, guys.
Okay.
So, how do your beliefs shape your views on the purpose of life, and do they play a role in your everyday life and decision making?
I'd say with my life to religion ratio, I base my life off my religion. It always has been like that. It was like what I was essentially taught. I don't Islam isn't just a part of my life. It is my life. I go about thinking basically I've always got like a religious head on.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense. And from when I was younger, they've taught me what's right, what's wrong, be good, but just the main message is basically treat others how you want to treat yourself. Always be kind.
Absolutely.
And even if someone's mean, always think the best of people. Like there's this Islamic saying, like for example, basically drinking's haram in my religion, right? So one of their sayings is if you see a man with alcohol all over him, assume somebody spilt it on him. Or if you see a guy at the club, which is also a sin in my religion, assume that he's gone to go pick someone up.
Yes.
Or if you see basically a man with blood on his hands, just always assume the best of people.
Yeah.
And that's just how I've always gone about life.
Yeah.
And I think that's what it really teaches me.
Yeah. I think again, my beliefs definitely do shape how I see the purpose of life. I think we are here to serve God and love others, and to live with that purpose that God has given us. And I think for me, trying more and more every day to just reflect how Jesus lived his life. So, I don't know if you've watched any series like The Chosen or whatever, but it's a series that is based on the Bible and when Jesus was around and stuff like that. I find it very interesting just because it is a very good depiction of the Bible and shows Jesus as he would have, or as I think he would have been, and kind of following some of the teachings that series almost shares, because it's so similar to the Bible, is definitely helpful for me. But and how I kind of treat others and my decisions, I handle relationships how I think Jesus would want me to handle them, kind of try and make him, like, kind of view as if he's looking down on me, and would he be happy with this thing I was saying, this decision I was making. And as a teenage girl, that's obviously can be very difficult. And I have definitely had my moments where I've been like, yeah, this is not great. And there does sometimes seem like there's a lot of almost rules, but if you don't see them as rules and you try and see them as more, I want to do this, like I want to do this, I want to follow my original religion, I want to make Jesus proud, I think that's the most important thing for me. And it's like, yeah, I might have done that thing wrong, but that doesn't mean you have to throw it all away because you've done one tiny thing wrong, or you've done one massive thing wrong. But Jesus still forgives you. Like, it doesn't matter the magnitude or like the tininess of the sin. It's the same. Jesus views it exactly the same. And if you have that relationship with Jesus and set that kind of firm foundation in him, I think that you'll just live your life through him. But yeah,
we kind of believe in something like, with the whole forgiveness thing.
Mm-hmm.
Something similar in Islam. So basically, it's like our whole, like, it doesn't matter how many sins we commit. The whole purpose of being a human being is to repent and to ask for forgiveness.
Yeah.
And so long as you do that, you'll always have a relationship with God.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was quite similar.
Amazing. Yeah, I think that there is so many similarities in all of the different religions, and I think that people take it really seriously. The like, oh no, I believe in this, I don't want to hear any of that, And it's like, realistically, we can have that conversation and find out stuff like this. It's like, oh, I do the same thing. Like it's not that different. And I think it's definitely interesting to do that. But yeah.
I think for me, for everyday life, because obviously I don't have a religion or faith that I follow, I think I do a similar thing, which I think obviously all humans should do, is just be kind. And if someone makes a mistake, it's easy to, dislike them, blame it on them, take it out on them. But everyone's human, and everyone
Absolutely.
can do something wrong. Everyone can make a mistake. Everyone can say the wrong thing at times. It's something that I feel like everyone should remember, is to just be kind, go easy on people. We're all in the same experience,
I've got a question to ask. What are your thoughts on the afterlife or existence beyond death? Do you think this affects your view on life on Earth?
So this is one that I really struggle with, because I getting deep into like, well, what if science and Jesus are like the same? Like maybe God created the Big Bang and stuff like that. That's definitely something that I think about a lot, and I think, well, that is a very likely scenario. What if God created, like, I don't know, evolution or whatever? Like, I think those are very likely scenarios, that it's a mix of them all. Like, we're probably none of us are right, and it's just a mix of them all. But I think that life after death is such a big topic. Like, that's so, like, deep. But I personally think, as a Christian, I just kind of take the Christian viewpoint. Like, we die and we go to heaven and we spend that time with God and have eternal life. And if kind of we don't have that relationship with God, and we choose to do not great things in our life, we unfortunately may go to hell. I think that's the only view that I kind of have on it at the moment. I'd like to gain a better understanding, just because obviously, is it like, oh, do we wait for the day of judgment? But I don't know enough about that to talk about that. But yeah, so there's definitely a lot that I want to still unpack with that. And I think that's okay. It's okay to not know everything about these like deep topics. But yeah, I think that's my viewpoint on that.
It's a very like deep thought to have, and it's something that I've really contemplated like a lot, just because everyone's fascinated on it, like, what is after death. And yeah, I've contemplated it a lot, and I think my sort of thought process is less religious, I suppose, and more sort of spiritual. I feel like I personally don't think I believe in a kind of like heaven, hell sort of situation. I think there is most likely something after death. I feel like it's a very dark thought to like think about dying and then there's nothing for eternity. Like,
it's like crazy.
That's crazy to think about. But I think there's something, some kind of like, you know, you're a spirit, some kind of afterlife thing. Like I said, it's something I've put a lot of thought into, but I'm not too sure on what specifically I think with that, because you know, it's a huge thing. It's like,
it's like,
it's a very deep thought. It kind of sends you into a bit of a spiral when you think about it too much. But yeah, I think with that, it's definitely more spiritual than it is religious. But I'm very, very curious about what could be afterlife.
Afterlife. Loki, I used to be terrified of it. I used to follow my religion. Like, honestly, a big part of it was out of fear of like going to hell and stuff. Like, oh my God, like, until I realized this isn't right. Like, so basically in Islam, there's like 4 stages of life. We believe there was one before this, not as in a reincarnation thing, but there was a world where we were all just souls, and God came and asked us all. Basically, we believe this life right now is a test.
Okay.
We were all asked, "Do you want to live this life?" And then, because we were so strong in our beliefs, because yes, so now we're living this life, and depending on how we live our life here, that determines our afterlife. And as a Muslim, I'm not allowed to say who can go to hell, who can go to heaven. You have to do this, do that. Basic factor is you just gotta believe in Allah. But but then again, God can do what He wants. Do you know what I mean? Like, so I can't say. It's a sin for us to say who's going to hell, who's not.
Wow, that's quite interesting. I didn't know that.
We can't say it. And then, so the life after that is basically in the grave. We believe everyone who's dead now is basically waiting for the day of judgment.
Yeah, I think it's a similar thing in Christian. I think I might be wrong, but yeah.
And then it comes the day of judgment, and then heaven and hell.
It's just crazy how similar like being a Muslim and being a Christian is, and how segregated it is. Like it's viewed as this thing that's so different, and it's like realistically there's a lot of similarities. Like it's incredible to me that there is so many similarities.
Basically, in Islam, we believe that every Abrahamic religion began as Islam. So basically, because from Adam, we believed every prophet came, spread the word of Islam, but it wasn't actually known as Islam. It was just more of a way of life and believing in one God.
Yeah.
So we believe the prophet came down and spread the word of God. People believed whilst they were alive, but obviously prophets die. And after that, people basically changed the religion to suit their way of life.
Okay.
And then another prophet comes down, spreads the word of God again. And then basically, And so what we believe happened with Christianity. No, wait. Start with Judaism first, because that came first. So that was like Abraham, who we call Ibrahim, came down and they ended up worshipping him.
Okay.
That's how Judaism came about. And then prophets came, prophets left, and then Jesus came, who we call Isa alayhi salam.
Okay.
And he came, but then again, people worshipped him, and that's how we believe Christianity came.
Yeah.
And then we believe Muhammad came. Yeah. He's the last prophet, and then Islam was born. But
amazing.
Fine, but like the Quran only it was revealed throughout Prophet Muhammad's life.
Okay.
So then after his life came like Islam in its entirety. And then that's what we believe from then.
Amazing, yeah. Wow. Yeah, because I think that on that question, I think that for me it is so important to have some sort of belief, like whether literally anything, because living life without like some sort of belief, or like you said, thinking like some sort of spiritual thing seems so sad to me. Like, what's the point? And I know that some people, like, that's the thing that you can go down and just completely spiral, like you were saying, like, because otherwise, if there's not anything, if there's not anything, then what is there? Like, why are you bothering then, you know? It's like,
yeah, I understand that, because, you know, I've always been very curious and wanted answers for things and wanted to know why things are a certain way. And I feel like if I had a faith, I could have a lot of those answers. But I just don't think I don't think any faith or religion has ever sort of lined up with me as a person. For me to follow that and believe in that, I suppose.
Yeah.
But it is. I feel like it is just very. What's the word? You don't have that belief to fall back on. You don't have that kind of answer to certain things that a religion gives you. I'm just kind of clueless and just guessing on a lot of things and just, yeah.
Yeah. Do you think kind of science and faith, the two different beliefs, could coexist without conflict, or do you think there will always be that conflict?
I think with me personally in Islam, one of the main things that relates between Islam and science is the Big Bang. But the one difference is that we don't believe it came out of nothing. We believe it came from God.
Okay, yeah.
And I know that there are some like scientific discoveries that have already been said in the Quran, but I don't know them word for word, so you just gonna have to believe me on that one, guys.
Yeah.
We believe you, don't worry.
Thanks, guys.
I think both. I think they can definitely coexist, like both of you have mentioned with like God starting, like creating the Big Bang. That's both religion and science. And what are your guys' opinions on things like evolution? Like, what do you guys think about that? Is that
as in like from monkey to man?
I guess so. But is there anything in your like faith that determines anything around that, or do you just think it's literally science?
I think it's definitely something for me. Not that I'm all that knowledgeable on it, but I think it's definitely something that could have been God's way of creating all the different things. But I think also it happened in 7 days. Creation in Christianity happened in 7 days, or 6 if you're not counting the Sabbath. And so I think that it would definitely be not the sort of evolution that is commonly talked about. But I think that it could definitely be a way that Jesus created those things, or a way that God created those things, or people or whatever. But yeah, I think it's definitely a big question, and I think science and faith could coexist, but I don't think it ever will, because we will never know for sure. We're never going to know for sure, so we're never going to be able to blend those beliefs in a way that will kind of be sure,
Yeah, there'll always be that conflict.
Always be the segregation and the conflict, I think, yeah.
With your evolution question,
yeah,
I think the only thing I can really think of right now is that we humans back in the day, like back in the day, were like giants. I don't know how to explain. Not like fee fi fo fum giants.
Yeah,
more like they were actually a lot bigger, and then through time we got smaller.
Do you know? I kind of believe. Right, this is off topic, but I kind of believe that with like, the pyramids and everything, and it's like humans could have done it, but then a lot of science disproves that they couldn't do it.
Yeah, I think that's such an interesting topic.
I don't think it was aliens.
No.
My mum is a firm believer that it's aliens, but I think it was like bigger people, which is
Yeah.
crazy to think.
But that's so valid. I've never heard that before. Yeah,
But like a lot, like I fully understand. Like I get what you're saying.
I
because-
felt it was silly saying everyone was just giants back in the day, but
I definitely think that's a possibility. Like,
Yeah.
100%.
It's got to be. Like, I mean, how else are we making them without giants?
Got these giants like roaming Earth.
But with like coexisting, I think because obviously in this world, no one's ever gonna realize. No one's gonna know what happens after life until you're dead.
Yes.
No one actually knows because there's no like in your face solid proof
Yeah.
that anything
literally
exists.
isn't. Yeah,
No one
yeah.
can tell you.
And everyone's just going off faith or with science. It's facts, and I think as long as everyone just respects everybody else's beliefs,
Absolutely.
but as at the same time, as long as them beliefs aren't imposed on other people, we
Yeah.
can live
yeah,
harmoniously.
it's fine.
Exactly.
Yeah. I saw. Well, no, my dad saw. I want to share this joke. A Muslim, a Jew, a Christian, a pagan, and an atheist all walk into a coffee shop. And they talk, laugh, drink coffee, and become good friends. it's not a joke. It's what happens when you're not an asshole. Which
Oh
I
my
think
gosh.
is really interesting because it's like, it's not like about to, like, it's not something crazy to just have friends with different beliefs.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for watching this episode of Faith Notes. I hope you learned a little bit about different faiths and how important it is to consolidate what you believe. That's goodbye from me.
Goodbye from Lucy.
And goodbye from Safa.